I'm gonna add that gen. I'm down to play with him another time. I'm gonna add a note. I am down to play with this player at another time, just not now because I'm about to do a debate, so I can't do it right now. But later we will do a... There. What up, Gwert? Haven't visited in a while. I know, your absence has been sorely missed. I'm gonna play a few. Just hit me up whenever you want to play. Okay. Well, I don't know if you read the note, but I'm down to play with this player. I'm down to play with you at another time, just not now because I'm about to do a debate, so I can't do it right now. But later we do. Okay. So this guy's probably, considering the fact that he's like going around asking streamers to debate him, I'm guessing he has like a bunch of he's got like fucking postcards. He's got like notes preparing for this debate. He's got references.
Okay,
He's got sources. I'm
go
going in blind, boys. This is the only source I need. This and this, and a little bit of that down there. Two of those. I'm gonna argue from the chest. Oh, he's been sending me messages on Discord. I haven't even seen him. My bad, dude. I'm a bad debatee. So how are we doing this? I guess I'll just...
Wait, hello? Can you hear me?
Oh shit, he answered. Hey, what's up, man?
Dude, you ready for this?
Yeah.
You ready? Okay.
Yeah, I'm 100% ready.
Wait, do you want me to start, or do you want to say something?
I do want to say something.
Yeah, sure, please.
The Digimon show was actually so much better than Pokemon. As a kid, all of my friends preferred Pokemon. They said they were better, but I said no. Give Digimon Adventure a chance, and everyone that did, they always came around.
I think you're lying right here, dude.
That's my opening statement.
Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm gonna start. I'll just explain the premise, and then you can tell me if you disagree or agree with it. Okay, so. The first thing that I have to say is that obviously the burden of proof is on me because I disagree with your point, and obviously the person that disagrees has the burden of proof. So I'm going to be the one presenting, what I think, and then I think it would be fair for you to then challenge that. Are you okay with this, or do you want to?
Yes, I am okay with everything that has been said.
Okay, cool. So another thing is, if I ever try to restate your point, it's only because I want clarity on it. It's not because I'm trying to strawman you or anything like that. Okay, so please do let me know if I'm what?
Bend? What?
Strawman. Do you know what strawman is? Strawman fallacy.
Yes, it's like misrepresenting someone else's argument.
Exactly. So if you feel like I'm doing that at any point, you can stop me in the middle of my sentence and explain why you say that. Is that okay?
Yes, I will allow this.
Okay, cool. So I basically have like two major points that I'd like to cover, and then I guess what we can do is I'll start with one point, and then I'll break it down into smaller subsections, and then you can tell me what. We can talk about each point, I guess, until we come to disagreement, and then we'll sort it out that way. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, so my first point is that in season 9, well, in like seasons, I would say 4 to now, the macro game has been much more important than actually like knowing the micro in this game. So, for example, if someone has like 1,000 games on Zed, it does not necessarily mean that this person would be able to climb if he is not fully aware of how to play macro correctly. Do you agree with this, or do you disagree?
So you're saying that the macro game has basically become more important over the years?
Yeah, much more. I would say much more important. Yeah. Do you agree with that?
I don't think I immediately agree with that now.
Okay, can you tell me why you disagree?
Uh, I don't have any like raw data points to point out, but like why do you think that it is?
Okay, so this is one argument that we can never have data on. Obviously, 'cause it's very like, this entire game obviously is not a kind of educational thing, so there's no research on it. But like, I would say that like in season three, if someone said, obviously this is just my feels, right? So you can explain your argument in terms of how you feel as well, because there's no better way to do it. So like in season three, if there was like a Zed who had like 1,000 games on Zed, and he said, okay, let's duo, I'll carry you, right? If he said this to me, I would be more likely to believe him if he said that in season three than in season nine.
Were
Could you
you
tell
a
me
kid in
why?
season three?
Was I a kid in season three?
Maybe you're more naive.
Well, I don't know. That's just how I feel. That's why I'm asking for your opinion on it, right?
No, I wouldn't trust some random fuck to say it. If someone approached me and said I'm going to carry you, what did I meet this player in solo queue?
Well, I don't know. It's just some random guy. He says like, okay, I have 1,000 games on Zed. I'm really good on Zed, but you don't know how good his macro is, and he might have really really poor macro. Like, would you necessarily like when he says this? Would you be like, oh, okay, this guy can really carry me, or would you want to take a look at how he plays macro first before you say,
Well, I'd want to look at how he plays the game at all. If someone literally just
okay,
came up to me in client or on stream or on the streets and said I want to carry you, I would I would have just as much doubt today as I would back then.
okay. So, can you tell me why you disagree with my initial point of macro being more important than micro?
I don't think it's any more or any less important.
Okay. Um, okay, this is hard because like okay, this is quite a an important, I don't know, distinction that I had to make, I guess. Okay, I mean, if we can't agree on this, then I guess I'll just move on and see where we stand with the point without agreeing on this. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, so first thing I'd like to bring up is that the way that you play support versus a lane like mid or top or jungle is completely different in a sense that the things you have.
Have we? I'm sorry to interrupt. Have we stated because we've got people watching on this and that
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
didn't
sure,
hear our
sure.
first conversation? Can you present the premise of what we're even debating about first?
Oh, you mean the topic, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
oh shit. Hold on. Okay. So the topic
Do you have notes? Do you have
yeah, yeah, of
notes?
course I do. Yeah, of
I
course.
knew you had
I
notes. God
prepared,
damn
dude.
it.
I prepared. And you did say earlier on your stream that I've been asking streamers to. I never did that. There's someone in my chat that said that you might want to debate me, and I said okay, why not? So I just prepared for that. Um, so yeah, I spent like a few days preparing, but yeah. Okay, so the topic that we're debating on today is like I basically have the stance that if you play um, any role in bot lane, so ADC or support, you are going to learn the game at a slower pace. And I think there's an important distinction I have to make here that I don't think I clarified this, but if you play support, you will get better at support. I'm not disagreeing with that notion. I think that that's definitely true. It's the same with ADC. I'm going to say that that's very, very true. But you will not be better at the other 60% of the lanes in the game, which I think is obviously the bigger bulk of it, right? And also, I would like to say that there are some things um, in like the ADC role that you don't necessarily learn in the support role. So I would even argue that if you played support, not ADC, you're not actually learning how to play 80% of the game. You're learning how to play 20% of it. That's kind of my point, just to clarify.
So just looking at the okay, well, for clarity's sake, I disagree with that. I do think
Okay.
that you are getting better at the game overall if you're only playing, even if you restrict yourself to playing only support or ADC. Let's look at kind of like a parallel to that. So do you think that if you play top, you are not only improving at top, but you're also improving at the game as a whole?
Sure, I would say so, but I would say if you're playing support, you're improving at the game at a much slower pace compared to if you played another role. But I
Okay.
think you still
So
are. It's just much slower.
So why do you think that?
Because okay, so is it okay if I start on my first point and then because it basically answers this question? Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so um, I basically okay, here I have some definitions here. Okay, so I'm gonna define a few things. This is how these are the definitions I use to do these kind of notes that I have taken. Okay, so the first definition is that everything that you're about to hear, all the like games that I'm referring to in this case, are Challenger Korean solo queue games. Okay, I think that is the best comparison that we can draw in. Well, obviously, there's a body of research, so I'm going to say that this is the best comparison we can draw to for data, right? And the other thing,
No.
okay,
Was that right directed at me? Like you're asking if I agree with that? Because I don't agree with that. I
you
think
can say if you don't agree with it, that's fine, that's fine.
I'll still let you present everything, but I want to be very clear that I don't think that looking solely at Korean solo queue is a good indicator of the whole game any more than looking at pro play is a good indicator of the entire game.
Okay, why do you think that?
Because let's say in Korea solo queue something weird like Lulu Jungle happens to be meta and really strong, and it's strong because of a certain cultural difference. I'm trying to think of something that's like strictly only happens in Korea. Like I've heard that like the culture over there, like you give your mid laners blue or they like AFK. Like that's just part of solo queue culture over there. And like let's say that doesn't happen, and the strength of Lulu happens to rely on, giving your blue buff to mid lane or something like that. It's irrelevant what. Let me rephrase. Okay, so Lulu jungle happens to be strong and Korea solo queue. It's not strong here. Why are we looking at Korea jungle or why are we looking at Korean Lulu jungle when it's not relevant here?
Okay, do
It's
you
not
agree?
it's not a part
Oh,
of the
sorry.
game here at all.
Okay, do you like? Don't you think it's fair to draw a comparison to the region that every other region is aspiring to be, regardless of how the cultural difference looks like? I mean, they've won worlds for like majority of however long it's been going on for 9 years or 8 years now. Don't you think that it's fair that we should try to approach the situation in a sense that they are definitely ahead of us in even in the culture, and that we should adapt to that culture in some sense. And
Yeah,
in these references that I'm showing you, these um, the champions that are played in this game aren't abnormal at all. If you go to op.gg, these are the champions that are present in the top tier lists in NA and EU and every other region.
yeah. I understand that all metas trickle down from Korea, as a user in my chat said,
Mm-hmm.
and that we should aspire to something like Korean solo queue, but we're not there yet. And it's not the solo queue that we play in any more than the solo queue that we play in is in pro play. They're two different animals.
Okay, but like, okay, fine. Let me ask you this then. What would you say is like a benchmark for me to like look at a game and be like, okay, this is how we should be playing the game? What would you say that that benchmark
The games
is?
that we play, the games that we actually play, and
But that
on North
don't
solo
you
queue.
feel like that's kind of like looking at a math test and like, oh, okay, I got these wrong because I'm looking at my own paper. You're not necessarily looking at the right answer. Do you know what I mean by that?
Well, no, because the right answer, the math tests that they're taking in Korea are different than the math tests that we're taking here. You shouldn't judge yourself by the standards that are in Korea solo queue or pro play because that's not what you're playing in.
Okay, so
That
what
doesn't
about
affect your view at all.
okay,
It doesn't
so
affect day to day games at all.
okay, so what about like EU West and NA? What's the distinction there? Is there do you think that there's also a cultural difference or what?
I think it's less defined than the difference between NA and Korea, and I've never played on those servers, so I think it's probably less distinct, but there's probably differences.
Okay. Okay. I mean, okay, if we're not gonna agree on this either, then it's gonna be a
Yeah,
bit
I mean,
weirder.
I
But
just don't. I just don't agree that like we can look at Korea's solo queue and be like, okay, that's the correct thing. That's that because that's just not the reality that
um,
90% of the players that we talk to on a daily basis are playing on.
I don't think I would say that's the correct thing, but I think it's the closest like thing we have to something I can call a benchmark. Like that's where we want to be.
Okay, well
That
let's
okay. That's
proceed. Let's proceed in
okay.
the debate
Okay.
with
Okay.
you holding Korea as a benchmark, and let's see where
Okay.
that goes.
Okay. So I'll make. I think I have like two more things I need to clarify here. So when I say when I define a trade, like the term trade in the game, I would like to define that as an exchange of like attacks that lasts for somewhere between 3 to 5 seconds and not something below that. So, for example, if I don't know if there was an exchange where Soraka used E and Vayne used an auto attack on the Soraka, I wouldn't count that as a trade. I would count that as something small like poke or something like that. A trade would be something like a much more deeper exchange of abilities and attacks. Do you think
Wouldn't it
that's
just
fair?
be considered a short trade?
Well, yeah, sure, but that's kind of because obviously this is arbitrary, so that I need to stick to a formal definition before I actually present you with real numbers.
Okay.
Is that okay? All right.
Mhm.
So, okay, and then one more thing about the term trade, if I use it, it is not defined as a fight where a jungler or a third-party champion is also involved. This is because in most lanes, this is something that everyone does, and because of that, it wouldn't be characteristic to playing support or mid or top or jungle or ADC.
So, could you repeat that again? So trade.
Okay, so I just mentioned that a trade is like, I defined it, and then there's like a small thing that I need to say about that, which is that a trade is not defined as a fight where a jungler or a third party champion is also involved. This is
That's a
because, wait, sorry,
that's a
what?
gank. That's a gank.
Right, so it's not a trade. Are you okay with that definition?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I just need to tell you these because I like count the trades essentially.
Okay.
Okay, I'll just go on. So here I basically what I did was I went to there are plenty of like replays I can find for Korean Challenger i0ki games, and I basically looked at 4 games on both top slash mid and support. Okay,
I
so
see where this is going. Okay.
okay,
Continue.
okay, so the first game, I'll just get right into the game. Okay, so the first. Oh wait, how should I present? Okay, I'll just do it like this. So the first game, this is a game of Faker versus some random Yasuo in the mid lane. Um, in 20 minutes, he did 3 trades. Okay, and
Yep.
small skirmishes where a clear advantage was present, like when Irelia full cleared mid and roamed. Sorry, so like okay, so like if the jungler showed up, he did go in, obviously, like I said, but I wouldn't count that as a trade because every other lane does that, so that's not a characteristic to mid lane. So that's when Faker went in, but apart from that, he only did 3 trades when he was alone in lane with the Yasuo. Okay, so other
Yep.
than that, he also full cleared mid and roamed to other lanes when he had the priority, obviously. From 18 minutes onwards in this game, split pushing is the only thing that he did. Okay, so that's the first game. Now the second game, so I don't know, try to keep this in mind as we go along, I guess. So the second game, this is another game of Faker playing Irelia versus LeBlanc in the mid lane. So in the entirety of 15 minutes in laning phase, he traded once, like one time, not counting jungler ganks. Okay,
Yep.
so I have the timers here, whatever. Okay, so the third game, this is him playing Urgot top versus Aatrox. I would say this is a fairly even matchup. So he did 4 trades in the laning phase, okay? From 15 minutes onwards, he only split pushed. He didn't even trade after that. He fought maybe once or twice, but that's only because his team was fighting in the jungle and he needed to clean up some kills for his team. That's fair enough. Um, and then the final game in the mid lane section is Faker playing Jace versus Galio. And this one, I would say that he traded once, but that is if I'm being super lenient about it. And then the rest of the game was just farming and farming other lanes and split pushing. Um, okay, so that's basically what I have for mid lane. Okay, and the way I chose these games, obviously my data is prone to selection bias, and because of that, I chose the first 4 games on a YouTube channel. You can go look up called Domi Some Replays. That's just for sake of clarity and fair data. Are you okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. Do you have any questions so far, or can I move on?
You can move on.
Okay. So now, obviously, I have to draw this to an example of support games because it wouldn't be fair if I just showed you the mid lane example. We don't know relatively how much that is. So The first game. Okay, so again, these are the same. These are from the exact same channel, and the data was taken in the same fashion. So the first game was a game of Zillion support, and he did about 5 to 6 trades within 12 minutes. Okay, and then after that, from 12 minutes onwards, Zillion was only mid lane for the rest of the game. That's all he did. He was only mid, and he occasionally went to ward into his blue buff to get a pink ward there because the jungler was taking it. He also went into his topside jungle just to get it warded. But other than that, the only thing he was doing was running it down mid essentially, and like he would back sometimes, and he would go back mid and help his team out in the mid lane. Now after that, the second game is wait, who is? I think this is a Soraka. I actually don't have this written down. Okay, no, this might not be Soraka. I'm not too sure who this was. Yeah, this is Soraka. Sorry. Okay, so this Soraka game, he did 6 to 7 trades in laning phase. This is Soraka, right? And laning phase ended in 10 minutes. And again, similarly, he stayed in mid lane for the rest of the game. He only ever engaged in skirmishes fights where his teammates were there. So he literally like only fought when his team was there. Okay, he never ever fought. He never did anything else. That's all he was doing. He did clear a wave once. He cleared half a wave when mid lane was backed and it was under the tower. So obviously he has to clear it, otherwise it goes to waste. The third game, 4 to 5 trades, right? So that's kind of my point. Third game, 4 to 5 trades. Fourth game, 9 to 10 trades. So there's a clear discrepancy in the number of trades that a support would do compared to a mid or top laner. And this does not only show the discrepancy doesn't only show in trades, but also it shows in the way that they roam. Essentially, is also really really different. And supports also like in none of these support games has a support ever gone to another lane to push the lane that he would be in a side lane, for example. He has never ever done this, not a single time.
Why
So
would he? Why would
that's
he be
kind of
pushing?
sorry.
Why would he be what? Why would he be essentially split pushing? As that's not part of his role.
Well, exactly. That's exactly it, right? So that you're not actually like mid and top, and you could argue maybe even jungle rely quite heavily on split pushing in most games. And this is kind of what I'm trying to show you here is that as
Okay,
a
but can
support.
I interrupt for one
Yeah, yeah,
second?
no,
Can
no,
I ask
please,
you
you
this?
can, yeah, yeah, please.
How many times did that Soraka go to farm a jungle camp?
0 times.
0 times because it's not really part of their role, right?
That's exactly what I'm saying. That you don't learn 80% of the game because you're learning 20% of it. And Soraka is playing very well within her role. I completely agree with you. But the core game mechanics, the other 80%, where you need to be split pushing, you need to be paying attention to waves crashing into your tower to clear it and then push it back. The back timings on lanes are completely different rather than if you look at it in bot lane, stuff like these. These are things that a support would never look at because it's not within their scope.
Is that the extent of the data you have?
This is the extent of this part of the argument, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, so your assumption is that since they never do it, since it would be almost objectively wrong for them to, for example, take jungle camps or try to solo a
Sure.
dragon
Sure.
or split push a lane,
Sure.
because they never do it, they never learn when to do it or when
Exactly.
to.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I entirely agree with that. I
Okay.
mean,
Why
like
do you say that?
a Soraka can know that like top lane needs to be pushed, but not go to do it since that would be essentially inting. Hold
Okay.
on, give me 1 second.
Oh yeah. Sure. Sure. Sure.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I had a family member.
Okay. So you disagree with the fact? Sorry. Do you have something else to say, or can I like?
No, go ahead. No, go
Okay.
ahead.
So you said that you don't agree that a Soraka would be able to see um like if another laner was pushing you you don't. Sorry. What was your point? Sorry. Could you say it again? Sorry. I'm just. That a Soraka
Sorry.
would be able to see if their laner is doing a split push and because of that learn the timings to split push. Is that your point?
No, I'm saying just because like you are, and I'm not really sure even sure where these numbers are coming from. You're saying like split pushing is, I think you attached 60% of the game to it earlier. Like
No, no,
understanding
no. Okay, so
waves crashing and when to push and when
yeah,
to
yeah,
push,
exactly,
when to
exactly,
freeze. That's
exactly.
60% of the game.
Um, yeah, sure, 60%. Yeah.
Where I mean, where's that number even coming from? Just
I
because
mean,
like jungle, top, and mid take up 3 out of 5 positions, it's
sure.
60.
Yeah. Well, obviously, it's not like an actual like piece of data. It's just like a way of I represent it. Yeah. Like a support player would never be able to like if I joined a league, right, for example, and I said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I want to main support, okay, and then I pick a champion, a random support champion, whatever is in the meta, I guess, like Soraka or whatever is good, Thresh, for example. And if I start playing this champion and I only play like support, right, and then suddenly you say, okay, you're gonna have to play a game of mid, Irelia or whoever's in the meta again. I I would not be able to tell you like when I should be split pushing because that is not what I'm focusing on if I'm playing support. A new player would never be able to make that distinction, and neither would I think some more experienced players would because the thing that this game relies on is you to practice everything. It all relies on if I sit here and I tell you, okay, if your matchup is Leona Alistar, you have to do X Y Z. If your matchup is this and that, you have to like I can tell you these things forever, and you can remember them and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if you don't actually apply it over and over again, it won't become second nature to you. You won't understand fully the mechanics of what I'm telling you, right? So if I just observe it, it's not enough for me to say like, okay, I'm guaranteed to know what I should be doing in terms of like macro, like map movement and stuff like that, because I'm watching the person. I'm not even watching the person all the time. I have to focus on warding, I have to focus on fights, focus on trades in the bot lane. There's so many other things that a support has to focus on. But that's fair enough because obviously that's the scope of a support. And that's kind of my argument is that you don't actually learn the other 60 to I would maybe even argue 80% of the game because you're
Let me ask you
focusing.
this. Let me ask you this though.
Sure.
Isn't a part of like high caliber, high elo jungling like understanding when a good time to gank is or when a good time to split is, and doesn't that take a partial understanding of other roles? Like he can look at bot lane and be like, "Wow, my bot lane's winning. They're taking a lot of trades, and this is a winning matchup, and it's soon going to push to them, and I think I'm going to have a gank ready to happen here in about 30 seconds." I don't think that it's just so also like so separated as you think it is. I think the
Um,
game is very cohesive in its knowledge, and that learning a little bit of splash here is going to, or a little bit of like support knowledge is going to splash over to mid game. In the same way that learning ADC is going to help your support game, in the way that learning in the way if like you play 100 jungle games, it's going to help you understand like why you're not getting ganks as a top laner, things like that.
I think I agree with you slightly more on the point that you just brought up, which is for the jungle example. I think I agree with you more because jungle there are plenty of like empty gaps when
Hey,
you're playing
I'm sorry.
jungle. Wait,
Could you excuse me just like
yeah,
20
yeah, yeah, please,
seconds?
please, please. It's
I'm
fine.
so
Take your
sorry. I'll be
time.
right back.
Take your time. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Hi.
You're
So
back.
yeah, full disclosure, I got to leave in 10 minutes. So maybe we'll leave this on a to be continued, but I'm good to debate and for another 10 minutes.
Okay, cool. Wait, do you think we should finish it, or would you like to?
Well,
Um,
I'm not sure much of us are making much head ground. Although I did just hear that you said you agree with me a little more. Can you expand upon the parts of what I said that you agree with
Oh,
more?
okay.
And
So
then
I agree with the example that you gave just now, which is that jungle would be paying much more attention to. Well, that's what I agree with. Is that if you're playing jungle, you would be paying much more attention to the other roles of the game because there are so many empty gaps in the jungle role where you aren't actually like doing anything micro intensive. When you're clearing a jungle camp, obviously there are plenty of it's not like hard to look at the map while you're doing it and stuff like that. And while you're moving from camp to camp, obviously there's a bit of a cooldown timer there as well. Whereas in a lane, like for example for a support champion, you would only have to be focusing on where the enemy vein is moving at that time because you have to be paying attention to any form of trade that could be occurring at that time. And that's kind of what I agree with, is that if you're playing jungle, you can definitely see more of these things. But again, as a support, there's so many other things that you need to be paying attention to, that you don't have time to look at these things. That you don't have time to ever understand them fully, because obviously you're in the game.
Okay, can I bring up another example, a
Please,
hypothetical of how I think
please.
that like, you learn as a cohesive thing? Okay, let's
Sure.
say you're a Sejuani one trick.
Okay.
You know Sejuani, you've played her, you know her like the back of your hand, you know every single route, and by that, you know if the enemy team blocks in Sejuani, let's say you're playing support, you're against an enemy Sejuani. You can then say with like 80% confidence that like Sejuani is going to be at this point on the map. And I say, me and my jungler, we go ganker. We invade into their jungle, and by having that knowledge of jungle routing, you have then like brought that to your support role.
Okay, could you give an
And that
example where the support role knowledge is brought into mid lane, for example? I mean, there are things that overlap, but like, how would you ever overlap split pushing into the support role?
split pushing into the support role. Well, there are some supports that can split push, but it's not like a heavy aspect of the role,
Okay, so I
and not
have
everything is going to splash over. In the
data
same
for. Okay, sorry, continue.
in the same way that like learning how to last hit isn't going to splash over a lot into your support game, like learning how to split push isn't going to really splash over a lot into your support lane. But having access to 7 wards on the map, as you know, supports do, like that's going to splash over into other roles.
Wait, so you just said that you don't think that split pushing is going to splash over into the support role, right?
Very often, no, I don't think it's a
Okay.
core tenet of supporting.
So don't you think it's fair if I characterize that as, if you're playing support, you're not actually learning a very, very fundamental part of the lane, like how to play lane, because obviously you're not learning the micro of CSing, you're not learning the macro of split pushing. These are
You're
two.
not you're not doing it firsthand, but you're seeing the firsthand results of it. You're surrounded by it on both sides every single game that you play, and you pick up some secondhand. And on the rare occasion, you can split push as certain supports, but it's not just going to be a core tenet. In the same way that like knowing how to safely clear is a core tenet of jungle.
Okay, so because obviously you said you would learn secondhand, right? Don't you think that you would learn this at a much slower pace if you were playing support rather than actually being in the lane?
Would you learn how to efficiently split push at a slower pace if you only played support? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, rather than playing in lane, yeah.
That I think is the first thing that I can agree with. Yes, you will
Oh, so
learn
you do agree with that?
that tenet of the game. You will learn it. Not, I don't know if a slower pace, but maybe not as complete of a picture as you would if you were a Tryndamere one trick, for instance. Tryndamere one tricks are going to have a stronger grasp on split pushing than supports, or
Sure,
mids, or jungles, or ADCs.
sure. But top as a whole would have a larger like knowledge on split pushing than a support, right?
Sure, or a mid
Okay.
laner, yeah,
Okay, yeah, sure, fair enough. Okay,
or a
so
jungler.
this is basically my point, is that if I look at all these games that I just mentioned at the beginning, they're like 15 minutes, like after 15 minutes until the game ends, Faker has been split pushing until the game ends. Like, don't you think that that's a very, very core part of laning then?
Split pushing as a part of laning? No,
Yeah.
it's a part of like mid game to end
Sorry.
game,
Well, sorry. When I say laning, I mean like the lane role. So like if I play mid,
like playing a lane. Okay.
right?
Yes. But even
Okay.
from your data alone, wouldn't you say that trading is a pretty important part?
Oh,
I mean, if
absolutely. Absolutely. I think trading is also very important, and you can learn that as a support. However, the frequency that you trade at is also sometimes a bit weird, because obviously there's a clear like number difference in the amount of trades that a support will undertake compared to a mid laner, which does teach some bad habits, for example. But yeah, sure, you do actually learn the mechanic of walking up front trading and all sorts of things like that. But the fundamental, like half of the you're missing out on half of the game if you don't understand split pushing and you're playing mid or top, like according
you're
to
you're
what I
you're
have.
you're missing out on half of the game if you don't understand
Sure,
split pushing. If you're
sure,
playing mid or top,
sure. Yeah,
half of the game is split pushing.
yeah, I mean, these are, I can, do you want me to send you the links to the videos, and if you want to take a look at them? Or
No, I'm good on those. Um,
because
I
in
just
all of these games, like at the halfway point, like whoever is playing already starts split pushing in these four examples that I have for top and mid.
it can be a very dominant strategy, especially in the highest echelons of play on the highest rated server. But to say it's half of the game is almost like it's farcical. Like I would never say split pushing is half of the game. When you're introducing League of Legends to a new player, would you ever say split pushing is half of the game?
Sure, I would. Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to
Really?
say. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think we should learn to become like them and not us staying in our, corner and just like looking to improve on ourselves. I think we need to look at who the best people are and build towards that rather than staying stagnant. I think that's
I
fair.
don't
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. I think we've gotten the wrong image of what I think of like the Korea to North America comparison. I think we got off on the wrong foot on that because I don't think that like looking at Korea games as like an objective sense is wrong. It's just not what you're going to see. Like if I were to introduce League of Legends to a new player, never split pushing wouldn't be one of the first 50 things I teach them.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
I think okay.
it's a high concept strategy. Like it's
Right,
not a
but I
fundamental.
think, but
Definitely
I
not
think it's
50% of
super
the game.
fundamental. That's okay. That's kind of where we might disagree. That I think it's really fundamental. If you look at any form of like, you don't even have to look at challenger games. You can look at diamond games for a start, and they're all the same thing, right? If you go to like diamond, like if you look at diamond replays, it's pretty much the same behavior.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, yeah, I don't think we're ever going to agree on that because I wouldn't put split pushing anywhere near 50%. I don't know what
Okay.
number I would put on it, but I would say that what happens when one player creates pressure on the other side of the map, the thing that's happening at the Baron pit because of that split pressure is a much larger portion of the game. All the dynamics that happen with the team fighting and the shot calling and the do we have the jump on them and picks and what happens in a 3v5 here and do we have pressure and do we have presence, things that happen because of the split pushing are like the split pushing is the catalyst, but like never would I ever say it's 50% of the game. There's
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I don't know. I have looked at some videos, and that's kind of where I'm basing my opinion on. I don't know if maybe
yeah,
I'm sure you do have experience on like.
I'm not denying that split pushing happened in all four of those games that you watched. I'm sure they did. It's a dominant strategy and it's a good way for solo queue players to get high ranked. I mean, it's a good strategy.
Okay, so okay. Yeah, I mean that's kind of my point that split
So
pushing
so
is.
really it doesn't necessarily come down to like ADC and support that you have kind of like lower opinion on. It's like it's split pushing is what it kind of comes down to is what I'm getting. So like you think
Um,
that split pushing is like more important than basically any aspect of the game.
I would say split pushing, and obviously the fact that you won't be able to farm as well as if you practiced mid lane, for example, because obviously we know that minion waves spawn every 30 seconds. It's a very, very core fundamental part of laning, and because of that, obviously if you can't farm versus an opponent who can farm, there's a very, very big discrepancy already. So I would say that combined with split pushing are the two biggest offenders in this case, and that's kind of why I think playing a bot lane role, excluding ADC, ADC covers the CSing bit, but not the split push bit. That's
Can I
kind
ask
of
you a
what.
question?
Yeah, sure.
And this isn't like gotcha journalism. What
No, no,
role do
no.
you
Go
play?
ahead. What role do I play? I used to play jungle and mid. I kind of just swap between whatever I feel like right now. So,
I see.
but no, there is a bit of a kind of bias here because I have never well I have played support for a bit, but I think most of like what I play is definitely I would say top jungle mid. So there could be you could argue that there is definitely some sort of a bias here, but that's still my point. I would say that I still agree with it.
So would you say because we've got to kind of wrap up and we can
Yeah,
get
yeah,
back to
sure,
this
sure,
at
sure.
some
That's
point,
fine.
but as a conclusion, you would submit that split pushing is the most important part of the game. Is that a
Um,
yes or no for you?
Okay, I don't feel like I know exactly like okay, this is definitely number one, but I would argue top three. I would argue top three.
Top three.
Yeah.
That's more reasonable than saying it's 50% of the game.
Okay. I mean that. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Do you have anything else you want to add or?
No, I guess just as like my closing statement, I would just say that I think that playing any role, playing the game itself is going to obviously you want to specialize. Obviously, if you want to go to the LCS and play in Korean server high elo as a top laner, you should play top because that's how
Sure.
you're going to learn
Sure.
top.
And same for support, mid ADC, whatever. I think that playing the game at all gives you a more cohesive picture of the game than what you give it credit for. I think that playing any role honestly lets you learn the game at a pretty healthy rate.
Okay, I disagree with that because, like, obviously there's research where if you don't practice something, you won't actually be good at it. But okay, I mean, this is a bit of a hand wavy territory because there's no, I didn't do numbers on this, or there are. I don't think there are any numbers, but I would like if you brought this point up to me, I would say that there's research that points towards not practicing something, meaning you aren't actually good at it. But I wouldn't have anything.
I would agree with that. I think if you don't practice the thing that you want to be good at, you're not going to be good at it.
Exactly.
But understanding the game comes with playing any of the 5 roles. I don't think that there's just like a plot me into this role and I'm only going to learn this role.
Sure, but that's kind of like
maybe when we're talking about champions, we might be in that territory. Like you might not be learning the whole picture of the game if you're only playing Lulu mid. Like you might be learning strategies that work around Lulu mid. Like maybe we might have some common ground and we agree if we're talking about like one-trick pony players, but like one position, like I really think you're learning the whole game at a pretty healthy rate. But dude, I really got to go, man.
Okay, that's fine. All right, thanks for the talk. If you want to continue, you can message me on Discord and we can figure something out. But yeah, I appreciate that you took.
All right, man. What's your stream again?
Internet pleb, twitch.tv/internet pleb.
Internet pleb. All right, I'm gonna throw you a host.
Hey, that's really nice of you. Thanks, I appreciate it. It's nice talking
take
to
it
you.
easy, man. Thanks for staying respectful.
Yeah, no worries. Bye. Have a good one. Bye. Holy shit, we did it, boys. That was good. I thought that was what I was hoping for. That was that was a really civil discussion, I think. And 37 viewers. Thanks i0ki for the host. Really appreciate it. Interesting, yeah. That was cool. That was really cool of him to have that debate with me. Okay, let's see how this goes. i0ki raid. Hosted. Thanks, I really appreciate it, dude. Thanks. It was good talking to you, alright? Good talking to you. This really sucks. I'm gonna have to watch the VOD. I never get a notification. I kept checking follows, streams never popped up. Turn off my PC, went to bed, load off my TV. That's okay, dude. That's okay. Yeah, I recommend you watch the VOD. I thought that was very constructive. I thought even if we didn't agree on too much, we did kind of progress with it. So, I don't think it was too bad. I thought that was really good, really healthy. Yeah, 37 viewers. I have no idea what to do now. Is it okay to trade 3 of my teammates' life and Baron for inhib? Is it okay to trade 3 of my teammates' life and Baron for inhib? I think it depends on how much you have lost already. I think I would need a bit more context to that, though. Explain more of your point. You had so much written down and didn't say any of it. I actually did get to say most of it. Let me pull it out so that you guys can have a look. So, okay, so, oh shit. Okay, so this was kind of I had this section here in case the conversation went into this territory. So this is kind of like the breakdown for the champions that are actually able to split push. I did hear that he was about to say something related to this, but he didn't actually quite expand on it because he moved on to something else. But this is kind of my points for if he were to have moved on to the territory. So I would have argued that barely any support that is ever in the meta actually is able to clear waves and therefore split push. Yeah, obviously these are just numbers that I have. These are taken from various tier lists on websites, so actual data. And obviously you can see here that there's a very small amount of supports on these tier lists that are actually able to clear waves or help out in some way from split pushing. So yeah, that's basically what this part is. Top and mid examples of lane. Yeah, so this is kind of what I went through with him. And then these are the notes. Oh yeah, and then I have some additional notes here that most support champions are strongly defined by their characteristics linked to either of the following: good tankiness, crowd control, or good assistive abilities or utility. Supports who are damage based do exist. However, they don't tend to stay in the meta for long periods of time than tankier champions. This is data that I got from op.gg's tier list. Like there are like a bunch of websites that show you what the tier lists were for different patches. That's kind of where I got the data. Most top champions are defined by their propensity to be able to clear waves quickly, and thus are able to escalate any advantage into a split push threat. Team fighting is not favored in this patch for top laners. Only split push small 2v2, 1v1, and 1v2 situations. As this is, again, you can see this in all the tier lists. You have people like i0ki, Sion, Darius, Tryndamere. These types of champions are much more favored right now. Obviously, these Urgot even. They're very good at split pushing and various skirmish type situations, and that's kind of this definition over here. But other than that, I covered everything else. So let's see, chat. Do you agree with this statement? Any player with good mechanics can get D5, D4, even without macro. No, I don't agree with that. No, not now. The game is 80% macro currently. Disagree. Okay, that's fine. There was a Katrina who reached Diamond only using her mouse. I don't know what that means. Anyone good at iRelay or Riven or something? I don't agree with that. Because they wouldn't know when to run down exactly, which is part of the macro game. Only staying top and splitting is macro. Yeah, exactly. It's on. Yes. This is the point. People play 1,000 games on channel. Yes, exactly. Well, not literally no macro, like, but that's exactly it. You just said that you need macro, right? That's the thing. Like, where does the macro come from? It doesn't come from playing support. This split pushing ability doesn't come from playing support. It comes from playing mid and top. Well, you can't play League without macro. Exactly. Exactly, but getting better at macro is getting better at split push timings, when to back, when to engage in a 1v2, when to engage in a 1v1 to counter this split. These are things that you will never ever learn if you, well, you will learn them, but it takes a hell of a lot longer to actually learn it if you were playing a support, for example. That's my argument. They just split anyways, but what I meant by that statement is that they don't need to know macro. I disagree. I think the very fact that you send a Riven to split push, for example, she has to be able to know to what extent she should be split pushing. She has to know where to ward even while macroing, stuff like that. Like some people don't even know what it means and get to D5. That, can you show me an example of that? I've never seen, like, what kind of like data, I guess, do you have on that? Because I don't have anything that shows that at all. You don't have to know the definition of micro and micro to have good macro and micro. That's kind of true, yeah. Well, I learned from supporting to actually word a lot more. Yeah. That's true. But like again, split pushing is different. Well, my friend got to D3 and didn't know what macro meant until I told him. Sure, but he would have been practicing macro without actually knowing it, right? I mean, that's if you want to come on Discord and talk to me about this, I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you if you feel like. Um, no, he was just a Katrina man, everyone killing whatever he sees, and okay, like the very fact that you said that he's running everywhere and killing, that is macro itself, right? That's actually just macro. That's not micro. Micro is something like how well I can farm, right? That's something like micro, or like how do I dodge the skill shot with flash? When can I anticipate a skill shot to come out? How do I use my I don't know, my dodge ability to? Yes, but he wasn't doing macro. It doesn't matter though. He was still doing macro. It doesn't matter what. Like if I show you how to ride a bike and I put you on a bike and you can ride it, and then I tell you after that that you're riding a bike, you were actually riding the bike before that. Like he wasn't thinking. Yeah, but that's the point. Is that if you play mid, you learn it as second nature, right? That's kind of how it is. It's irrelevant that he didn't know the term. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't think it's relevant. Okay, if you can hit d5 and have no hand, I don't know what you mean by that. Tell me the difference micro. I mean, yeah, like definitions of macro. Macro is game. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess you could say that. Pretty generally, yeah, I guess you could characterize it as that. Uh, I'm a jungle main. Okay, so macro is pretty important. I would say so as well. Yeah. And I play Eve, so micro isn't that important. Okay, sure. I think regardless of what champion you're playing, micro isn't as important as macro, but yeah. His game knowledge is piss poor. No, but no, I would say it's important. I wouldn't say it's very important though. Obviously this is like we're talking qualitatively. There's no quantitative description, but I would say it's just important and not very. Um, Hey, come on, keep it civil, all right? No need to throw terms like that around here. Doesn't get you anywhere.
Keep an eye out for new friends.
Ah, shit. T plays CS. Thanks for the follow. Um, 200 games. Do you have an op.gg for your friend? He gets banned every time. I think he's a Casa main right now. Like the thing is, this is pretty anecdotal. Like there's no Yeah, okay. I mean, look, he doesn't have it. Okay, we're just gonna assume that it's true because there's no way to prove that it's wrong. There are two things I want to say. Firstly, uh, I'm pretty sure that you have much more friends. Wait, let's take a look at this. Wait, he's what? Okay, that's preseason. Go last season. Okay. I mean, okay, I can't necessarily see if someone's good by their win rate. I don't think that's not an indicator, right? It doesn't show me how good the person actually is at macro. But like, I wanted to say, like, do you have examples of people that don't know, or sorry, that have played a champion for hundreds of games but are still stuck in a rank? Like that's super common. You can see so many of in fact, I would say there's much more people that are in that situation where they're like they have like 500 games on a champion and they're hard stuck silver. I got to D5 playing Anivia. Okay, and what's the point? Okay, but how do you like how do you know that? Like how do you know this? Okay, but it's not it doesn't work like if you're in Diamond 5, it shows that you probably know slightly more macro rather than micro, and that's kind of why you're climbing. Like it shows that you're definitely improving in both departments, obviously, but it doesn't highlight that macro is more important than micro. Everyone in DeFi is cancer, but that's not an argument because that's true for every rank. There's no data for that as well. I was just able to beat the enemy mid laner because I knew. Again, I don't think that's an argument. I feel like none of these are like backed by anything, any form of like data, and that usually was enough to win more than 50% of my games. Okay. Again, doesn't show whether or not you have actually been implementing macro strategies. Doesn't show. Is not proxying the wave at level 1 macro. I'd be happy to have a conversation with you if you want to hop onto Discord. I wouldn't mind. Farming is micro. Okay. Yeah, that's true. I think you think macro meaning game knowledge means everything about all champs, but you're forgetting. Yeah, yes. Maybe, yeah, this might be the case. This is a very good point. I think people these days try to it's super general when they say like, oh, I'm good at macro. It's like game knowledge, but what is game knowledge, right? Yeah, I think this could be it. Maybe I don't know. This could be it. Like all of what you're saying is like sure. I mean, if it did happen, then sure, but it doesn't show that like none of this shows that you don't know anything about macro. You might know so much about macro, it's just that you're not aware of it. Maybe I have no idea, but well, I don't know. When I was an Anivia player, I just went wherever. Yeah, but that's macro, right? And improving macro would be like backing at the correct times after you've done that. That would be an improvement to it, for example. But as an Anivia, that is good macro, not frontlining in. I don't know. But you know that your champ is supposed to do that. Nah, but I did exactly that when I played Anivia. I frontline as Anivia and die every time. Still got to D5. So this is my point. It's that you can do this, but you have to realize that frontlining is a micro play. Frontlining is a micro play, right? Macro is like going to another lane and clearing minions. That's the point. Isn't that macro? No, absolutely not. That is micro. Like, it's like yeah, that's micro. Like if Vayne tumbles forward, where should I be going after that? That's micro. Something like macro in a team fight would be something like when can I tell that the fight is over, or when should I say okay, we won the trade, we should back up. Like these are things, or like when should I say okay, we should fight Baron while we're doing a team fight. These are things that are macro, right? But micro is like okay, where should I be? Who should I attack? These kind of things are all micro. I don't know. I thought positioning was macro. No, absolutely not. No, no. So it might be. It might. Yeah. It might just be that macro would be something like, going to a side lane to push the wave and then knowing when to back exactly. That would kind of be that would be an example of macro. But like, where should I be in a fight? That is definitely micro. Well, obviously, like these the definitions that I'm using are obviously arbitrary and based on my opinion, but I think that's pretty consistent with my views. Like macro, like macro literally means big, right? So, um, hey, that's a good way. This is a good way of looking at it. That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah. Um, Macro means big, right? So anything that relies on multiple interactions, and the result of that would be macro because there's just many things that you take into account. It's a long term, big picture. Yeah, big picture, small picture. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sure. I thought knowing to stand behind your support as an ADC would be the big picture. No, because that's like okay. So like the situation you're giving here is support as an ADC. Like this is like very very general. Like what if I'm an ADC Vladimir? What if my support is a mage? What if my support is a i0ki? What if my team has a front line? What if what if we're fighting in front of Baron? There's so many things that I can apply to this. This is like this is micro because it relates to what happens on the screen at that time. There's so many things that this is definitely not macro. And knowing how to auto reset on Vayne, that is an example of micro. But this is the same thing. Like you need to see what's on the screen to be able to tell whether this is true. This is almost like the chance that this is like if I tune into a game, I could never ever tell you whether or not that game would have this situation in it. It would depend completely on where you're fighting, who your champions are, what cooldowns were blown, stuff like that. It's so important. If you step in too close in fights where you're making good calls, your team is going to tell you your macros trash. They're going to say your garbage mechanics. Yes, but how come majority of coaches are plat gold if the game is macro based? What are you talking about? Wait, I don't understand what you mean by this. How come majority of coaches are plat gold if the game is macro based? What? Yeah, because I said earlier. Yeah, like that's why they're in plat, right? You can't get D5 without good macro because the game is based on macro. Yeah, that doesn't. Yeah, that's true. How come majority of coaches are in plat gold? Well, that's because they don't understand the macro correctly. But there's a there are 800 games, but there is a good coaches like you that are 800 games gold plat. I don't know what you mean by that. Do you have like data on like, or have you been coached by like 10 people or something, or what's the like? Where do you get this information from? No. He's saying like there are coaches that I've been coached by a few. Okay. How do you like? How can you say that they're good? How do you know that? That's like one of the most objective things you could say. Like a coach is good. What does that even mean? Like if you get coached by someone and then he teaches you micro mechanics very very well, for example, you could say that that coach is good, and I wouldn't argue with that. That's definitely true. And that's kind of why they would be in gold and plat. Because they would be focusing more on your micro play rather than macro. Because your game knowledge was better than mine, and they had the ability to teach me new things about the... Yeah, but just because you're learning new things, it doesn't mean that they're good. Right? 20 times rank than them? Like, this is... I don't think this is a point. How do you know what they're teaching you is correct, though? How do you know that what they're teaching you is good? How do you know what they're teaching you is the most important things? I thought their levels coaching was good. Yeah, but again, you felt that. That's an objective reasoning, right? "20 times gold plat." Whoa, dude, you're from Grand Challenger? What does that mean? Oh, okay, I get it. Not literally 20 times. Grand. Okay, I get it now. You're plat something, right? Me? Like plat 3? Yeah. I'm on this account, I'm plat 3. I don't play the game anymore, yeah. Sure. Sure, yeah, I am. My account right now is gold 2 after the season reset, yeah. But like, yeah, 400 games or something. Yeah, you can check the champions that I play. Sure, you can check the champions that I play and whether or not they're off meta. There's no command for that. I don't have any commands yet. Hey, if you need proof, you can DM me and I can send you some. Also, I can, if you want, I can ask my previous team managers to message you and ask like, or here, wait, yeah, if you DM me, I can just send you like a few links. Like if you don't believe me, then sure, I'll do that. Why not? Feel like it. Well, there was statistically that majority of non-professional coaches. Okay, so when you say statistically, okay, so can you show me where you cite this data from? Can you show me like the cited data with like 5K people? Okay, but can you show me the cited data? Yeah, okay, but can you show me like who collected this data? Like what was there a person that went around like surveying people or like how does that work? Where is like is there like a graph of this? Is there like a fixed number or what? It was diamond something. Yeah, and yeah, exactly, right? What is a good coach? What does that even mean? And like if you don't have like a fixed data on it, then it doesn't mean I can claim something like this as well, but it doesn't have to be true. Like, well, but how many people have you been coached by? Not that many actually, maybe a handful. There should be a coaching school where people teach gold players how to coach. And how many of them were above diamond? All of them. I talked to people that are above diamond. But like I said, like just because I've been coached by people that are above diamond, it doesn't mean anything. Like it is just an anecdotal reason. It's completely irrelevant. If you don't have like a spread of like, okay, here's like a percentage, and these percentage of coaches are gold plat. If you don't have a number like this, which I doubt you do, then the argument is invalid. I mean, if there's anyone that wants to learn how to coach, I think I have actually tried that like once, and I do enjoy doing it because it's like teaching a teacher almost. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. But yeah, I would say you're probably right. Most coaches probably are gold and plat. That's true again, but like it's so like arbitrary. Like this is so arbitrary. Most people can't climb themselves above the game. Yeah, exactly that too, right? Like there's too many factors that come into play, and without like a community and a body of research surrounding it, there's never like a time when you can say for sure that these things are true. Well, I think to become a good coach, you just need to be good at teaching and at the game. You don't need to be diamond or anything. I just think that the game is more mechanics based than you think. Okay, so if you can argue the points that so I have my data here that I mentioned during the debate. If you can tell me why Faker has traded Faker has traded maximum of 4 times in a game that I analyzed, but the average was like 2 twice in lane compared to like support where you don't learn the game, right? That's like if you can argue this point where half the game is split pushing. You can go to any replay right now. If you go to a Korean replay and you check what percentage of the game they're split pushing, or not trading, or like going to ward or going to bot lane, stuff like that, I think you'd be very surprised. I would say it's upwards of 60%, maybe even more. Like these games that you're looking at, they barely have any mechanics in them. But you're comparing 2 different games. That's the point. I need to do that because if I compare one game, I'm prone to confirmation bias, saying like, okay, this game suits my data, so therefore, I'm going to use this only. That's why I took 4. I think 4 is a fair number. A thing I heard is that coaches that are coaching pro teams aren't actually high elo. Okay, competitive is different to solo queue. No, I'm not looking at competitive games. I'm looking at solo queue. My data is based on solo queue. This is all solo queue. I didn't mean it. I believe most players above gold probably know most of overall game macro and know what they should be doing. I don't agree with that. I don't think people in gold understand this at all. From the amounts of replays that I've seen, I doubt that. But they don't. Oh, okay, fine. Maybe I can't tell if this is true, but I don't think I'd ever be able to know if this is true or not, but okay, Diamond Plus players do apply it. Yeah. I meant that League competitive is completely different to League solo queue, nearly a different game. Yeah, I know. So that's why all my data is solo queue based. I disagree with you. If a person is top tier of Korean play can't keep up with the mechanics, they won't compete. Wait again. If a person in the top tier of Korean play can't keep up with mechanics, yes. So mechanics you need, right? Sorry. So like mechanics are good to have, but you need macro. So like, you know what I mean? Like, of course you need the mechanics. Like you can't just not have any mechanics. That's very true. But the core part of climbing is knowing the macro. If Faker doesn't trade in his games, then how does he end with 7 kills on average every game? Good question. If you look at all his games, it's because in laning phase he does jack shit. He ends laning phase with 1-0-0, 0-1-0, 2-1-0, scores like these. And then once he starts split pushing, he starts to come come together with his team who are engaging in skirmishes and clean up many kills that way. You'd be very surprised at how many kills he gets from after laning phase if you looked at his games. There's no reason not to trade. Trading means you can. So this is where you're wrong, okay? You can, so, okay. If they go for the wrong minion, okay. So, this is incorrect. Okay, what you're saying here, if they can go for the wrong minion, you can poke. This is true. There's no reason not to trade. This is wrong. The amount of trades that people engage in Korea is so much more less than the ones in NA and EU. I challenge you to contest that. If you, like, look at replays and I challenge you to contest that. Let's say an auto QW with LeBlanc Okay, what do you mean by that? So if he was playing Jace into Riven, he wouldn't poke all lane. He would be poking much less than people in gold in EU West. Yes, much less. Do you want to take a look at I can send you the link. There's a game I have of Jace versus Galio. Now you would think, and even I actually thought this, I thought that Jace could be able to poke the fuck out of Galio. But it turns out Faker, this was the game. Keep in mind, right? I have this over here. Faker traded maybe once if I'm being super lenient. If I'm being super lenient, he traded one time. Against Galio, okay? Well, what do you define as a trade? Okay, so that's kind of what I went over in the debate. So here, a trade is defined as an exchange of spells that lasts for about 5 seconds, arbitrarily defined, so I try to stick to it as close as possible. Single abilities used to poke were not considered to this number. That is what I call a trade, okay? A trade is not defined as a fight where a jungler or a third-party champion is also involved. The obvious play in any role would be to engage or commit in some way to obtain an advantage by outnumbering the opponent, thus is not considered when characterizing each role. I think that's a fair way to define a trade. But okay, like I think any attempt of hitting the enemy is a trade. See, that's I wouldn't define that as a trade. I don't think that's a trade. Like there are plenty of examples that like this is why I don't consider this a trade, because there's so many like arbitrary things you can define here. Is an auto attack considered a trade on an AP champion? Okay, you are trading, but we have to stick to a formal definition in order to make the comparison fair. That's kind of why I drew this example. Why is saying that macro and micro are the same? Wait, why is saying that macro and micro are of the same importance? It's like yin and yang. One is opposite without the other. One is important without the other. Same importance. Oh, no. Yeah. It's wrong. I would say it's wrong. Yeah, sure. It's like, wait. Let me think of an example here. It's like, it's hard. It's like it's one of those things where like you need to have a prerequisite. You need to have like a foundation, but the majority of it comes what you build onto the foundation. But obviously, if you don't have a foundation, nothing can be built onto it. But the foundation doesn't have to be big. That's kind of what I'm trying to say here. But you're trading. You're taking their health and taking your own. Okay, so the problem here, like I said, it's very arbitrary, right? If you go to a game and okay, tell me now, right? Tell me now. Would you say that a Soraka auto-attacking the enemy support is a trade? One auto-attack. Would you say that's a trade? Like, I think there would be 50 plus trades in 15 minutes laning phase. Take a look at the game. You would be very surprised. Look at the game. You would say that Soraka auto-attacking the enemy support is a trade. One auto-attack. You would say that that is a trade. Like, things like these, like, this is like, if there was a scale as to how micro something would be, I would say this is the most micro thing ever. And I would say that the term trade that I defined is more macro-sided. That's kind of why I'm looking at that. Like, there's so many things that you can take into account here that I can't agree with. Or like, okay, like, because it gives a chance for the enemy to return damage. Yeah, exactly. A short engage, like that's what it is. If you go to any definition, if you search right now, like what's a trade, you won't get like one auto attack to be a trade. That's like poking. A full on 1v1 isn't trading. What are you talking about? I just can't agree with that. I'm sorry, I just can't. I won't call anything a trade if only one person takes damage. I call it. I don't agree with that. I think a trade. it doesn't have to be favored. Like it doesn't have to be like sorry, it doesn't have to be like even. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who loses out on it. The important thing is that people use attacks, multiple attacks, in a period of like a few seconds. Yes, but there's always a chance for someone to take damage. Yeah, but the person hasn't actually taken the damage, so it's not a trade. Do you see what I'm saying? Like the chance is there, but there's a chance to everything. There's a chance that your mid laner will run it down mid the very second that you spawn, but it doesn't actually happen. The difference is like if you engage with the enemy and provide a chance to take. No, that's not. Yeah, no. This is just wrong. This is like, this is like. I feel like you're using the. Wait, are you talking to me or what? I feel like you're using the reduction. Absurdum. Oh, okay. Yes, I know what you're saying. I can't tell if you're talking to me though. Anyway, I gotta get some sleep. Nice debate and have a nice night. Yeah, good night. Good night. Thanks for sticking around. Like if LeBlanc W's into you and you auto them back, but it gets cancelled, it's still a trade. Back, but it gets cancelled. Yeah, okay, I would say that's a trade because it probably would have taken at least 3 seconds for this to happen. I would say that's a trade. Yeah, sure. But if I auto attack someone one time or I use one ability on a person and the person immediately has no interest in following up that trade, then I would say that that isn't one. Because you're trading 0 for like, yeah, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the numbers are. It could be 0 for 0. That could still be a trade. Or whatever that cancer champ's damage is. Okay. All right. Okay. Do we have any more things to contest? I'm taking trading as the literal definition, one for another. I think trading is that, but that's not the literal. See, the thing is, there is no literal definition for it. That doesn't exist. Like, is there like a dictionary for trading, like in League or what? It just doesn't exist. Oh my god, this is not like you can't do this, dude. Come on. Like if we're using like English definitions for definitions that mean other things in League, like what about wording? What about wording? Can you use the English definition for that? It's but it's not. It's just not. That's no. That's just not true. It's based on the English verb to trade one for another. Again, why would you ever use the? Can you tell me? Can you tell me this? Okay. If we use English definitions for things in League of Legends, the game wouldn't be the way it is right now. Like the way we would call things wouldn't be the way it is right now. These things have a cultural twist to them, to the game. You can't just say that the definition is exactly the same as the one in the English language. It has nothing to do with that. The reason it is the same word as the one in the English language is because it was taken from there due to similarities in the context. So like if you hit someone and they hit you back, well, it's not for everything, just for trading. Yeah, but what? Like, if you say that that's just for trading, then that's not consistent with the views of the game, with everything else. So that point is irrelevant. That's an outlier. Like what you're saying doesn't actually make sense statistically. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna. Are there any more points that are not related to trading? I think we've gone on for too long about this. Any more points? might talk about one more thing and then head off. If anyone has anything to say, I guess. Ella giggle. All right, doesn't seem to be anything else. We've debated. We've challenged some pretty interesting points today. It was good. I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty constructive. The conversation I had with Autism Boy is a bit like, I don't know. I don't think we're getting anywhere with it, but sure. Anyways, good night. Yeah, good night to you too. Good night to you too. Okay, that's that may be why. But okay, all right. I'm gonna head out. Yeah, have a good one, guys. I'll probably be streaming tomorrow or some shit. I'll see how I feel. Okay, peace. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.